Now. Hello and welcome to Tales from the Comic Shop, the show that takes you behind the counter. I'm your host, Joe, and joining to me today are Roger Prouse and Eddie D'Angelini. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
I'm Eddie D'Angelini. I am a retailer and a creator. I am the manager and co-owner of Heidi Ho Comics in Santa Monica, California, and I'm also the writer and artist of the Comic Strip Collectors.
And I'm Roger Prouse. I co-own the Nerd Store in West Valley. I also am one of the organizing founders of the Wasatch Comic Con, which is a creator and comic-only comic convention in West Valley City and Salt Lake City every year.
And I must say that was actually the one convention that I was sad that I'm going to miss out on this year.
Aw, so sweet.
I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun.
No, it is a lot of fun. I'm really bummed too, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess with that out of the way, we're going to hop right into the news this week. And the same issue as before is still going, and that is the new DC distribution deal that has been put together with Midtown and DCBS.com. And
hey, the way you just
Eddie,
said that,
why don't you
realize that's a pun.
Huh?
Sorry. That just made me see the pun. That was fantastic.
So yeah, Eddie, why don't you break it down and tell us where we're at right now?
Well, no news since the last time we talked about this. I have not seen DC come out and make any statement regarding the backlash that retailers have had regarding this whole new system and not wanting to be a part of it. The one thing that they did do that I saw, and unfortunately a lot of my customers saw as well, was they announced online that, hey, DC Comics are coming back into comic shops this next week, which is going to be the 28th of April. But now I've heard that they've pushed it back a week, so it's going to be the week after. But anyway, they made an announcement that, DC Comics are back. So I've had a lot of my customers now contacting me, phoning me and emailing me, asking me, hey, what's going on? DC Comics are going to be coming out. Can I pick up these books next week? What's going on? So I've had to now explain to them what's going on and what's kind of behind the scenes and try to explain to them exactly why I'm not getting them and letting them know that you're not going to miss out. The books are going to be available when Diamond reopens. So that's kind of where we're at with that. Not anything really big or new.
My favorite part about that whole thing is when they did that, they linked to a little site of telling you where you could get your DC Comics. And my store that has been in business for 6 years apparently is not one of those places. But another store that's been out of business for 4 years was.
Yeah.
Like dead people voting?
Yeah, right.
Trying to find businesses through those little search things that they put out has never been successful for me.
I have no clue if mine shows up.
You guys have been there forever. You probably show up.
You would think.
No clue.
So really, though, I mean, so basically what you're telling me, though, is that DC has pretty much ignored the backlash from retailers. Is there any talk among retailers about not boycotting the distribution through Midtown and DCBS?
Yeah, I think that's the majority. I don't think there was a trending hashtag thing they did, and a lot of people made statements, including myself. And I think wait for Diamond is kind of thing the majority on. There are some who kind of jumped that ship and went that direction, although from what Eddie was telling me, it doesn't seem to have gone terribly well for them so far.
Yeah, I don't think it was really considered a boycott as it was just not interested.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. I think it was more of a passive, like, no, this is just not even this is not a thing for us. Like, I guess you don't boycott something you were never going to support in the first place.
Right. Why should I go through the trouble of having to do all the work to open up new accounts with these new distributors when it's only going to be for what, 3 weeks? And maybe now, just wait. And the books that they've been advertising that are going to be coming out for those 3 weeks are not really anything all that solid.
They're not top shelf books.
No.
Yeah, I saw they were pushing Batman. That's the big one that I'm waiting on from this next month's DC books is the Art Germ.
Yeah.
Batman 92, I think it was.
Yeah, I did read something though about one of the books they were releasing, which was kind of considered kind of hot because it ties into the whole Joker storyline, was Nightwing 70. And now collectors are all upset because they are trying to figure out, well, if it's coming out into shops with these new distributors, but then it's coming out later with Diamond, does that mean technically that the one that comes out first with DC is the first print, and then the one that comes out with Diamond is the second print?
So the one that came out with Diamond was actually printed before the other one, from my understanding. So I actually think the other ones would be second prints, but they'd released first.
Right. But wouldn't you even just consider them all first prints?
Well, I don't know. It depends if they're actually first printings or not. Like that's
true. Were they all printed at the same time? Yeah, or do they print them specifically?
Print or a second print designation on the book? I don't know.
Do you know how that works? So Diamond does the distribution, right? But who does the printing? Like,
well, the publishers they outsource it, but the publishers do.
Right.
So they have like their own set. So it goes from it's printed one place and then goes to Diamond.
Yeah.
And then Diamond's really a middleman in all this.
I mean, that's the distribution. Distributors are middlemen. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, distributors are middlemen. That's just how it works.
Gotcha. It's like that Firefly episode.
However, I do think that's a little bit like oversimplistic way to look for it if you're not, again, just for the average person, because I think a lot of people think, oh, well, Diamond's just a middleman, so they're expendable. And I don't think they understand, like, A, how little distribution actually takes of the overall cut to do what they do, and B, how much they actually do that takes weight off the shoulders of both retailers and publishers. The value, it would cost more for the books if you didn't have a distributor. I know that seems counterproductive, but they're better at what they do. They can focus on it better. They can set up the machines and the things to do it more efficiently. Just having a distributor actually lowers the price of your books ultimately.
Right. If I think it was the 90s, I don't remember. Maybe you might, Roger. But there was a time where Marvel tried to distribute their books themselves, and it was a disaster because they couldn't handle it. Because they finally had to realize, hey, we publish books, we don't distribute them. We can't do all this extra work. So you've got Diamond there basically to take a lot of weight off of the publisher's shoulders, like you said.
Cool. So, but really the big news from this week is DC just hasn't really responded. They are pushing forward with these new distributors and this new distribution model, but it doesn't sound like. I mean, what do you guys think the future holds for this? Like, is it going to continue on, or is this going to fail just so massively that?
I talked to my brother about it a little bit to get his input, and his theory on this is this has nothing to do with comic book distribution. His theory on this is they couldn't get anything through Diamond, and they knew it. Diamond knew it was better to kind of wait it out. These guys were ready to hop on board and take it over, and what they want to do is they want to be able to, because DC's kind of had a little bit of this anyways, more than most publishers, is still believing that the future is digital. And Charles is like, they're just trying to make it so that they can have a way that we can get it so they can publish digital early. And that way they don't piss people off by saying that they went digital first.
Interesting.
Which would mean that this whole thing's all for kind of a show when it's really about something entirely different.
So it's a kind of a smokescreen.
Yeah, I mean, I will tell you, whatever it is, I don't think there's any long term viability for this. I mean, at best, it's a couple weeks or a couple months. I don't think long term you're going to see enough retailers stick with it. Once Diamond's back up, the retailers, I mean, very, very few will stick with it. Certainly not enough to make them anything major in distribution channels. And that's if they do the job better than Diamond, which I significantly doubt that they will.
No, yeah, I can't even imagine that they would do it as well as Diamond can at such
Interesting.
short notice.
Yeah, there's just no way with the amount of time they've had to create the infrastructure and the amount of things that are going to be unforeseen that will have no systems and no staff in place for. There's just no way.
Yeah, because I mean, there is a general negative feeling towards Diamond in the industry, especially coming from the retailer side. I mean, it's very common to hear horror stories of Diamond not packing books correctly or just massive damages. And then trying to return damaged books is apparently just a nightmare for shop owners. I mean, there's a negative, there's definitely a negative feeling in the collector community towards Diamond at this point. But it sounds to me like you guys have developed a relationship with them that you don't feel the same way. Maybe you can expand on that.
I think it's justified what you're saying about Diamond.
Yeah,
It's
I'm sure.
justified, but it's also overblown at the same time.
I'm sure Eddie and I
And
could tell stories for hours about Diamond.
yeah, but at the same time, you got to think about the job that they do at such a huge level with all the shops, the fact that they can get that much stuff out and for the most part correctly to so many shops every single week is pretty amazing.
I mean, you got to think they're
that's a
dealing with millions of SKUs, which with an
yeah.
average dollar amount on these half of these items. I mean, the majority of the items they're sending out, $2-3 is what they get per item, which is a very, very low ticket. So you're talking huge volumes with low returns, with low margins, with high rates of destruction and high rates of shrinkage rates. You put all those things together, you're in a very low profit business, and to be able to run something on that kind of profit and that kind of margin that's even functional in itself is a feat, even if it isn't perfect. So, I've dealt with a lot of distributors. I'm in, for those that don't know, I have two different businesses in two completely different industries. So I've dealt with it from every angle. And I will say I've been dealt with probably 2 or 3 dozen distributors over the course of my 12 years in business. And Diamond's pretty smack dab in the middle. They're far from the best, but they're also far from the worst.
Yeah. And for the amount of damages that I have or problems that I have each week, it literally amounts to a small percentage of my overall order. But obviously that's what everybody focuses on.
Well, and then they have one of the problems with Diamond is when they do screw up, a lot of times they screw up big. Like it just seems like every time if they're going to send you one damage issue, it's going to be your 1 in 100 variant that they sent you damaged,
Yeah.
Or every now and then you'll get that one shipment that's like 85% of it is wrong. I've had those too. So,
geez, that 85% that has never happened to me.
Yeah, I mean that's probably an exaggeration, but no, I mean honestly, I've had ones. We had one time when we got someone else's order and they got ours. That was fun, but
that's happened to me once before as well. And all I did was, it was like an easy fix because it was a shop that was not that far away. So I literally just called them and said, "Yeah, I've got your stuff," and they said, "Really? Okay, yeah, we got your stuff." I don't know how that happened. Quick drive, did a swap, and everything was good.
That sounds like a UPS problem to me.
No, it was in boxes labeled for my store. It was just their stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It was just, it came in my case, it came with their invoice. So it was just a complete screw up all around.
Yeah. And those types of things have happened. So, I mean, yeah, I've had issues, but.
Sure. I mean, I've had issues where, there was supposed to be a big number 1 that was coming out that particular week. And I know there were a lot of people that wanted it. And I opened up all my boxes and it's not there at all.
Or all of them are damaged.
Yeah. When it happened to me, it was just like, hey, none at all, nothing. So, I mean, that's a big deal. But, it's not like they didn't fix it. It's not like you call them up and they go, "Oh, sorry. Okay, we'll try better next time." No, they get on it and they fix it and you get your books.
They are
But
also a lot harder to deal with and a lot worse if you're a smaller retailer. So that's the other thing I will say, and why I think a lot of
mhm.
people have that impression is a lot of the smaller retailers, because of having been both smaller and not smaller, they're a lot easier to deal with once you're doing more volume. If you're a low volume retailer, they suck.
Really?
Okay.
Okay. Then I've never experienced that end of it then.
Yeah, their customer service is a lot worse. Your ability to get things going is a lot worse. They don't do much for you with shipping rates, so your shipping rates become significantly higher by percentage. Every time they send you all this demo stuff, they're sending you the same amount as they're sending Midtown. So I'm paying for $3 or $4 shipping on demo stuff that I have 4 customers that are interested in, and I can't opt out of. And so yeah, there's some frustrations there for sure, especially for smaller shops.
Gotcha. Okay, that's understandable because when I hear some people complain about, heavy mistakes, it's usually from somebody in a smaller town,
Yeah.
somewhere in the Midwest or something, as opposed to, someone in Los Angeles or New York or Chicago.
Yeah, there's definitely a divide there, I will say, because when
Yeah.
I tried to
Okay.
open a town in a small town, and it was a lot worse than my city store.
Okay, so it
All right.
sounds to me like, I mean, they're far from perfect, but the devil is better
Yeah,
at this point, especially when the devil that they're trying to introduce you to is two of your biggest competitors.
right.
All right. So, we'll get back to this some more. Hopefully, some other news will break and we can let you know some more stuff next week. But right now, I actually want to move on to a topic that is near and dear to Eddie, and that is retailer organization and how they interact with, mostly the big two, but I assume all comic publishers, and how they can make that better.
So this is going to be interesting to talk with Roger about this, and that's what I had mentioned when Joe and I kind of threw out this stuff out a few days back. Um, Roger has gone to several comics pros, and I haven't. But I thought, what would happen if comic shops were more organized and had a very united front, actually, even had representation to be able to go up against publishers as far as getting what shops need specifically, as opposed to just making the industry much more agreeable to, say, the publishers and distributor, and kind of like leaving the retailers just kind of like at the bottom to just deal with whatever they get. Because for the most part, um, how much say as a retailer do we have in how the industry is run, as opposed to the publishers and the distributor who are really controlling how things are made, how they're distributed, what's going on as far as where the industry is moving. But how much say does the retailer have, and how much say should they have, as opposed to just being given books that they ordered and being told, okay, go sell them?
Right.
Your thought,
So
Roger?
my answer to that, and I have an answer to that, is that it completely depends on what publisher you're talking about. When it comes to the big two publishers, any influence we have is very reluctant, if that makes sense. So their reaction is always. So let me tell you the way it works. And I've seen this happen over my time, just in the few years I've been going to Comics Pro. And for those who don't know what Comics Pro is exactly what Eddie's talking about. It's effectively a trade organization for retailers. You pay your annual dues. It provides a number of different things. And for some of the people that pay in, they actually they hold an annual conference every year. Some attend and some don't. And I think the biggest problem with Comics Pro is that not enough retailers attend. Not enough retailers actually show up and go to the meetings because it's expensive. I mean, you got to travel. Like this year, we traveled to Portland. It's all on our own dime. Taking days out of the shop. And so only certain caliber of shops are able to do it, and only certain people are able to do it. But I will tell you, it pays well more dividends than what you pay in. So if there happen to be any shop owners that have been on the fence that may listen to this, I would highly encourage it. And so, Eddie, one of the things you brought up is like returnability. So I'm sure you've seen like the Boom Guarantee program from Boom
Mm-hmm.
Studios. That was
Yeah.
because of Comics Pro. I was at the Comics Pro where we hammered them with this. I mean, every retailer was hammering them with returnability. These are what we want to see. This is what we'll do for you if you provide this to us. And I can tell you, when we sit down with Marvel and DC and say these things, David Gabriel's a nice guy, and he'll give you some lip service, and he'll tell you, he'll nod his head. And I don't think it's necessarily just, I mean, it is what it is. I don't want to say anything bad about him, but he only has so much power. He's there to kind of be the face, and they're going to go back and do the Marvel thing. DC, kind of the same thing. I sat down with Dan DiDio. We had those same kind of talks, and it was kind of the same. Dan's a little bit more straightforward and was like, yeah, well, this is why we don't want to do that. He'll have a little bit more of a blunt conversation with you. But either way, I mean, they only have so much power. However, we sit down with, say, Devil's Due or Boom or Valiant or Oni or these other ones where you're actually, in many cases, talking to the president of the company and you're talking to them about these things, you get traction. And then the next year they come back and they unveil a program that they've used, certain retail ambassadors to design. And then they show, the next year they can see this huge uptick in their sales because they did this program that, was considered too risky by the big two. But now all of a sudden these smaller, when Boom did their Boom Guarantee program where they're giving retailers this huge returnability boosts and perks and all kinds of perks for ordering their product, they became the largest, outside of the big three, really, because Image is right there with Marvel and DC. They became they had the most growth year over year of any comic book company, and it wasn't close for, I think, a couple years in a row. And they've continued that growth to this day. And so then what you see guys in DC and you guys see people in Marvel and you see people in Image looking at that and going, oh, well, now the numbers are there. Now we have to follow suit. Right. So you kind of end up test marketing these things with the smaller publishers. And so ultimately, yeah, our influence does trickle up to Marvel and DC. It just takes a few years by being test marketed through somebody like Boom Studios or Devil's Due or somebody like that.
So, and I totally agree with that because when I mentioned this whole idea, it was basically to kind of push back on the big two, because the smaller publishers, I absolutely consider them our friends. They've done everything, at least for me. I am in contact with a lot of them, and I know a lot of them now since I've had the shop because they're very forthcoming in wanting to talk to me.
Yeah.
I had
Aftershock is one that's been really good about that. I know.
Yeah. Speaking of Aftershock, I had a Zoom meeting with Joe Pruitt this past week, and it was all about him just wanting to check in with shop owners, saying, "How are you guys hanging in there with these closures? What is it that we can do for you guys now and in the future?" And I pretty much parroted the same thing. It's the returnability. The returnability is everything for you guys because a new Aftershock #1, I may only order a few copies if it's not really something that I think maybe might appeal to my customers. But the fact that you're making all your #1s returnable now, I order all of them. And I get more hits on them than I do misses now. Because and very few of them I actually even return now because they perform so well for me. And I told him that that's something that I like to see, and that's something I want to see more, not just with you guys, but with the industry as a whole, because it makes me not worry about my ordering. Because I'll just say, screw it, I'll just order as much as I want. I'm not going to worry about it.
Yep. Yeah, and I think you're going to start seeing more. I mean, little bits of this has trickled into Marvel and DC. Some of the stretch variants with Marvel where they used to make you do like the matching variants, where they, you had to order in order to get like their unlimited variants. You can order as many as you want, but you had to order so many of the title compared to a previous title. Really complicated way to have to order things, convoluted, and made you order a bunch of crap you didn't want in order to get these variants.
Oh, God, yeah. You know what?
When I see that because of Comics Pro, and it was because of the constant backlash from people and showing with other publishers how other methods worked. That's why they backed down on that.
Right. Yeah, I hated that. It was a time where I was like, I'll put in an order for the variant. If I get it, I get it. But I'm not going to sit here and go look back in what I ordered on something else and try to do the math and screw it. Or sometimes I would just skip. Yeah. Or sometimes I would just skip it completely. So I don't care.
Yep. And they found that, and they had enough retailers tell them that they did eventually pretty much push that to the side, and that's not what it used to be. So these organizations have, but the thing is, we have Comics Pro. How we have, I don't remember how many comic shops there are in the nation, but there's a lot. And you Comics Pro, you get in a room, all of us fit in one room. I mean, it's a couple hundred retailers. That's all that shows up. And so those couple hundred retailers that are in that room are really controlling the industry for every other retailer that's not there. And we're only able to have such a loud voice, right? Because there's always that tick in the back of the publisher's heads. It's the ones that are less cooperative or less inclined that'll say, well, sure, but this is only this group. There's group think happening. There's that kind of stuff. We just need to blood in the building.
What if Comics Pro had a very strong program to reach out to the retailers that aren't showing up? Because I know, speaking for myself, the reason why I don't go is it is a cost thing and it's a time thing. Sometimes I can't afford to take however much time off to get up there for it. And, it for the people that can't afford it, their voice isn't being heard. And what if Comics Pro could reach out to these people?
For the record, if you're a drinker, you get paid back in booze while you're there. So
Oh,
just for the record, there is that advantage. You get free
Then-
booze pretty much the entire weekend.
I am in. Oh, speaking of, if I can just get off topic just for 2 quick seconds, Joe, my wife and I made Mexican mules with the tequila that you sent, and I got to say it was fantastic.
Yeah, no, that's my choice. We're not gonna plug the brand, but
So
there's a nice
yeah,
bottle I sent Eddie for the start of the podcast. I believe Roger's not a drinker like me,
I
so
am not. No,
yeah.
sorry to disappoint.
But I'm glad you guys liked it. I would say that with that particular brand of tequila, I would just pour 2 fingers over a couple ice cubes. But Mexican Mule is also a delicious way to go with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So here's a question I had about going back to the comics. A question I had. So if if you were to begin a return program like with Marvel or DC, like if you could order what you wanted and then return 30 to 50% of your stock that didn't sell for a credit on future orders, would that kill the ratio variant?
I don't think so. I mean, so again, going back to like Boom did that with Firefly. Firefly #1 had a Bill Sienkiewicz variant that was, I think, a 1 in 100. There was also like, I think 1 in 200. You would get like one that was autographed by Nathan Fillion, if I remember right, or maybe it was Joss Whedon. I don't remember, it was somebody, but it may have been Joss Whedon. But anyways, you had like these crazy incentive variants, and me and Charles said, well, if it's returnable, we'll go through that. Valiant does the same thing. They have like 1 in 250, 1 in 500 type variants, and they have full returnability. But what they do is the smart retailers and the ones that get on board with the program, like Firefly #1, we normally would have ordered 15, maybe 20 copies. I sold 140 copies of that book off the shelf.
Wow.
And it's because I stocked that heavy, and we said, well, shit, if we have this many of them, we're going to throw a party, right? So we called the brown coats out. We did a big promotion. We said, okay, this is guaranteed money. We did an event around it, and that was 100% because I had it. So why not? And then I sold those variants, and it worked out really well. Valiant books, I'll put them up at my front counter, and I'll say, okay, they do deep discounting plus returnability. And so I'll put them out and I'll put a guarantee on them. Like, hey, if you don't like this book, you can return it to me. This is a #1 book. This is a #1 of a new series. Give it a shot. And I'll put it right at my counter, and I will sell it to every single person who walks in the door. And, before we started doing that stuff with Valiant, we had 1 Valiant hold. I now have, I don't remember the exact last numbers, but I know it's well into the double digits, the amount of people I have hold on Valiant books. And most of them have hold on the entire series, the entire run of Valiant, like every book. Because they found out they liked the content and they came back for more, and they fell in love with the universe because it's a universe type story. So no, I don't think it necessitates killing ratioed variants. I think that doesn't have to be. I mean, you might not see as much of the crazy 1 in 5,000 crap, but that needs to go away anyways.
Agreed. Well, Joe and I were having this conversation a couple of days ago, and let's say it's a 1 in 100 variant, and they're saying that, hey, this particular issue, you get 30% returnability. So, but if it's a book that you only sell maybe 10 or 15 of, is a shop that really going to go through the trouble of ordering 100 copies to get that 1 in 100, and so they can return 30, maybe sell 10 or 15, and get stuck with the rest? They probably would just say, I'm not going to sell through it. It's a waste of money. I won't do it.
No, yeah, I think if you do the returnability, what we've seen the most success with is full returnability. And I know it seems counterproductive, especially when you do it with these ratio variants. But I mean, one of the things you'd have to see fewer ratio variants. You'd have to see them be more selective about what books they put them on. But again, that should happen anyways.
Yeah, it should. But if you've got 100% returnability, they're going to do it for just special occasion books every once in a while. But let's say they make returnability more of a normal thing, where they not on every title they put out, but on a fair amount, a certain percentage of books. Yeah, maybe even if it's just like the first 3 or 4 issues, like the number one, 100% returnability, and then number 2, 3, and 4, maybe like 30 or 40% returnability of your order.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that. I think you'd see if you saw right now with what DC is doing with retailers, if you saw Marvel come out with that program right now, I think you'd see Marvel jump 10 or 15 points over DC on market share once all this resolves.
Absolutely. Did you I don't know if you guys had the Nerd Store when Rebirth first started.
Yeah.
So all those number ones were all returnable, if you remember.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we killed it. It went nuts.
Yeah, we ordered huge. And yeah, while we did have a lot that we returned, we sold way more than obviously we ever thought we would on a lot of that stuff, because we just
way more.
had a ton of it.
I think I returned maybe a few dozen out of the whole line. Like I
didn't because once it kind of got past the number ones and people were not as interested anymore, we started putting them out on a table saying all number ones half off, because you're going to return them anyway. Might as well just get the cash.
Yep.
So, it was great for DC because their numbers are huge. So imagine if Marvel did that with all the new number ones that they start, all the new series that they start. Imagine if they do that, all number ones, full returnability, and then say issues 2, 3, and 4, 30% returnability. I'm going to order big on those first few issues, because now you should probably do the same as me.
At least double or triple what I'm currently ordering. Because the other thing that does is that gives you motivation and incentive, since you have so many on the shelf, to put more marketing budget behind. It helps you kind of separate from the pack from the retailer standpoint.
Sure.
And the other thing it does is what they I don't think understand as much as they should is, I mean, and tell me how it is in your shop, Eddie, but dude, half my customers are friends with each other, like through the shop. Like they know each other, they meet each other there, they see each other when they're picking up their books, they talk, right? And so how many people are like, oh, what are you picking up this week? Oh, I decided to check this one out, right? Having that much of a footprint, having that many in stock, it creates hype, and the hype sells books by itself.
Sure. And then, for the few series that do hit, I'm not worried, because like, oh crap, I didn't order enough, because, like you said, I doubled or tripled my order on these first few issues, and I'm selling through them, really well, because I'm well stocked on them, as opposed to running out that first day and I've got to scramble to try to find some elsewhere, and I've got people coming in that were looking for that, and now I don't have it. So yeah, give me the freedom of ordering bigger, and it's going to look better for Marvel. It's going to be better for me, obviously, because I'm going to do better. Especially, because imagine if they would have done that for all the new House of X and Powers of X series.
Oh yeah.
Imagine how well that would have done, because
it would have been not only money in all of our pockets, but all of our customers would not have had the frustration of wanting to buy this series and not being able to find it.
Exactly. And imagine Marvel, how much more money they would have made, because all these retailers would have taken the chance and doubled and tripled their orders. And it turns out that this was a huge hit, and now they have the stock to sell through.
Yep.
All right. Well, this is very interesting. I hate to cut you guys off, but for the sake of time, we're going to segue to our next topic. And interestingly enough, this segues really well, because we're going to do a new segment called Comic Shop 101. And what I need you guys to do for me here is I need you to explain some of the stuff. We're going to use this to explain some of the stuff that people might misunderstand or misconstrue or just wonder about how a comic shop works. And today's topic is going to be ratio variants. So, Eddie, why don't you break down what ratio variants are and how you guys order them?
Well, very simply, you've got ratio variants where you've got a 1 in 25, a 1 in 50, 1 in 100, and for the really crazy people, 1 in 500, 1 in 1,000. What it basically means
5,
is, I'm sorry?
So I've seen 1 in 5,000.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy. What it basically breaks down to is you order 25 copies of the regular cover of a series, you are eligible to get one copy of the 1 in 25. You order 50 copies, you're eligible to get the 1 in 50 and 2 copies of the 1 in 25. And same thing, order 100, you get the 1 copy of the 1 in 100, 2 copies of the 1 in 50, and 4 copies of the 1 in 25. So
That's a great breakdown,
breaks down
because a lot of
exactly like that.
people don't know. I always wondered, do you have to decide, or do you get all of them? So you're saying, what you're breaking down there is you get all of them. If you order 100, you get 4 of the 25, 2 of the 50, and 100. You don't have to decide. You don't just get the 1 in 100. And
Yeah, but you don't automatically get them sent to you if you order that many copies. You have to place the order for that variant, but it's contingent on if you ordered enough of the regular cover.
Yeah, whether your order fills or not is dependent on if you order the normal one enough.
Yeah,
and you
because
pay.
I will order
so you,
maybe. I was going to say,
sorry,
there's sometimes why I order 25 copies of a book and I see the 1 in 25 variant and I'm like, nah, pass. It's just
so
a
the
horrible,
variant
ugly variant. I'll pass on it.
do the variants cost more, or do they cost
No,
the
they
same?
cost the same. They cost the same as what you are paying as a retailer, your cost as the regular cover. And
Okay.
the thing that people don't understand is why can't I just buy it for cover price? Because if it's a higher ratio variant, like a 1 in 50 or 1 in 100, and normally I don't order 100 copies of something, you're basically paying more for that 1 in 100 variant, because I had to order 100 copies of a title that maybe I only normally sell 30 or 40 copies of every month. So the basic idea is a retailer has to recoup the cost of how many he ordered to pay for, to set the price for that 1 in 100 to pay for all the extra books that he ordered.
You're effectively
That you're gonna
subsidizing the risk. That's what it is. It's you're subsidizing the risk.
It's exactly. Thank you.
So when you order a 1 in, so when you're ordering one of those, I'm trying to think of what 1 in 1,000 I can think of. I can think of the Dark DKR3.
Yeah, that was the one that
DK3.
popped in my end. My
mind. That's the one that automatically pops up for most people. And
I was thinking of that for Spider-Man 800, the Steve Ditko one. Was that a 1 in 1,000?
The other one I was thinking of too. Yeah. I think that one may have been a 1 in 5,000. That one was another one that was just dumb.
No, I think the 1 in 1,000 was the Ditko. The 1 in 5,000 was a black and white sketch version of it. I think.
Yeah,
I don't remember exactly. That was so long ago.
Wow.
If I remember right, the DK3, the 1 in 5,000 was like a Jim Lee sketch or something, wasn't it?
Something like that.
I think there was multiple ones, and I think they were all Jim Lee sketches. And I think you can get most of those on the hardbound DK3s, anyways. But it's the one that pops up to my head because I believe it held the record for the highest price sold modern comic at one point.
It was the 5,000 variant on Dark Knight 3 was actually a hand sketch by Jim Lee. It was like an original hand sketch.
Oh wow.
Jeez.
I can see why.
And how many shops do you think actually even order that? Besides Midtown.
Besides Midtown. DCBS, possibly Third Eye, and Mile High.
So you only really had to do 4 of them.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's probably closer to 10 because there's probably someone I'm not thinking of that went for it. Some shop owners are crazy and would just do it for their personal collection. But
that's a good way to go out of business.
Yeah. Well, there's some of them that have been long enough that they got the cash reserves to make those decisions. I don't think it was many. I don't think it was a lot of them.
Well, thank you for clearing that up for us, gentlemen. That is something that I know lots of people didn't quite fully understand, and I think that really clears up what the deal with ratio variances.
I get a lot of questions on that. I get a lot of people that come in and ask, what does 1 in 25 mean? Does that mean that there's only 25 that were made of this cover? And No, I have to explain to them what it actually
It
does
would be a
mean.
lot more expensive than that. Sorry.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but it's very interesting. So also chase variance is what they can be referred to, ratio variance, but that is the shop 101 on ratio variance. So thank you very much. And we're getting towards the end here. Let's wrap it up with something we're going to call cool books. And cool books will be just show us something out of your PC that you personally like or are proud of or just want to display and tell us about it and why it's important to you. And that after that, we'll wrap things up.
All right. Well,
So,
I guess I'll go first. How do
Roger
you
or
want?
Eddie?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
go
Yeah,
for
go
it,
ahead,
Eddie.
Eddie.
I'll go first. I just got a really nice book today. Nice golden age book, Tomb of Terror, number 8.
Oh, sorry,
Um,
Eddie. I don't want to cut you off. I'm just
yeah.
going to tell the listeners we will have pictures of these on the YouTube channel. So if you're listening on iHeart or Apple Music or whatever, if you go over to the YouTube and you want to see pictures of these books, they will be displayed in the video on the YouTube channel.
Should post
Yeah.
them on the
So
Instagram too.
And we'll
exactly.
put them up on the Instagram and Twitter and
So this
Facebook.
is a fun Harvey comic from 1953, cool golden age horror comic, CGC 6.0, which I just got today. So it's kind of like near and dear to my heart for the moment until something else comes along that replaces it. But definitely, it's just a really, really cool 1950s cover. So yeah, definitely go to the Facebook and the Instagram and see what it looks like. It's really, really awesome.
What was the issue on that, Eddie? I don't think you mentioned it.
Tomb of Terror, number 8.
Number 8.
Show it to you
Yeah,
guys.
no, those pre-code horrors are gorgeous always.
Yeah, they're always a lot of fun.
All right, Roger, you want to go?
Yeah, so I'm gonna buck the title on the very first time we do it, and mine's not a book. A lot of mine won't be books. Fair warning. Not to say that I don't dig my books and whatever, but I have a penchant for many things. And this first one, as much maligned as it is with a lot of collectors, is a Funko Pop. But there's a specific reason for this one. So this is a Swamp Thing Funko Pop. And this one, there's a little story behind it. Bernie Wrightson was at our local convention in Salt Lake. This is about 6 months before he died. Unfortunately, that particular convention was an absolute madhouse, really, frankly, poorly organized. And we had a lot of theft issues, a lot of issues with employees. And Charles and I were never able to break away from the booth during that whole show. So I was never able to go meet him. But we didn't even find out he was going to be at the show till we were there already because they didn't announce him as a guest. We found out from people attending that he was there. We happened to have Swamp Thing pops at our booth. It was the only thing that we had. So I sent one over with a friend of mine and got it signed. So this is my Bernie Wrightson signed Swamp Thing pop.
Okay.
That's awesome.
That's cool. I will allow it.
All right, good.
All right, and finally, to wrap things up, I have brought out my original page from Captain America issue number 395. It is page 17, and it is Thor and Captain America trapped in the house that drips dough. It is one of my favorite modern books from when I was a kid. This thing means so much to me. I was so happy when I was able to get this page because this is also my favorite page out of the book.
I was happy to talk you into it.
Yes, Roger had to talk me into it. It was a bit of a splurge, but I am so happy to have it hanging on my wall. I just absolutely love it every time I come in and look at it. It just encapsulates everything about 90s comics for me when I was a kid. Just the cheese factor, the way that the characters are drawn, super muscular and veiny. Literally, Thor looks like he's been shot up with venom. It's great. All right, so that's going to do it for us for this week. Thank you, Eddie, Roger, and we are
Always a
signing
pleasure.
off.
All right, howdy.
So, Roger, before we go, do you want to plug your charity auction?
Oh, yeah,
real
yeah.
quick?
So I'm running a charity auction on Facebook. This is to support the Forge Fun and Bink Foundation, which support bookstores, and in this particular case, specifically comic stores, through times of tragedy and economic downturn, which obviously is very relevant right now. We have some really cool stuff donated. Actually, had new donations this morning. We've got like original art from Louis LaRosa. We have a 9.8 Spawn 299 San Diego Comic Con variant up for auction. A Bloodshot 1 and 250 carbon fiber variant. Some cool Jim Lee signed Batman stuff. Adam Hughes signed G.I. Joe stuff. Big variant packages. I mean, a lot of really cool stuff. So if you go on to Facebook, search for Save the Comics fundraiser, and I'll make sure that if you wouldn't mind, whoever does the post on social media too, if we can spread this link around a little bit. But
I'll put the link in the YouTube description, and I'll tweet it out, and I will put it on our Instagram, and I will put it up in our Facebook group.
Awesome. Yeah.
So, also, if you're listening, sorry, Roger.
No, you're good. It's going through May 8th, so you have till then to join up and go through them and get all your bids in.
All right. And also, feel free, if you're listening and you're not in our Facebook group, to come and join the Facebook group. Follow us on Twitter and follow us on Instagram. I believe our Twitter handle is talking_comics. And if you just do a search for Tales from the Comic Shop on Facebook, you'll find us. And same with Instagram. So that's going to do it for us for this week. Oh.
We got a cool new logo too.
Oh, yes. Eddie did our logo, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So, all right, that's going to do it for this week. We will talk to you next week, and we hope you enjoyed the trip behind the counter this week.